Next, I will demo user rights management. The user who encrypts the file must have some level of rights management where they can add or remove users to be able to encrypt or decrypt the file. They should not need a third party for this task. In use case 1, Bob Elliott protects a PDF file in MySpace by user-defined policy with view rights. Bob Elliott shares the protected PDF file with Rob White. Rob White can view the protected file through the sharing of the file. Bob Elliott removes Rob White from the sharing. Rob White cannot access the protected file. As Bob Elliott, I log into SkyDRM with Web Client. Then I go to the MySpace, My Vault. As you can see, the file has already been protected with user-defined policy. I can share this protected file with other users. Let's share this file with Rob White. The file has been successfully shared with user Rob White. Now, Rob White logs into SkyDRM in Web Client. As Rob White, I go to the shared file and see the sample small PDF. It has been shared by Bob Elliott. I check the permissions and notice I have the view rights. I can also open the document. Back as Bob Elliott, I will revoke Rob White's rights. I do this by removing Rob White's email from the field and click Update. The file is no longer being shared with Rob White. Again, as Rob White, I go to the Shared File page under Shared with Me. The file that was shared by Bob Elliott is no longer there. I cannot see the file anymore. With this, I end use case 1. In use case 2, user access rights to the protected file are automatically granted or revoked based on the attributes, so no human intervention or reprotection is needed. Users who can access protected or encrypted files can be added or removed without modifying policy or changing the file. Admin creates a first policy to allow users in the engineering department to have the view, edit, and print rights with confidential classification. Admin creates a second policy to allow users with the manager job title in the manufacturing department to view the protected doc with confidential classification. Bob Elliott protects an Excel file with confidential classification in Workspace. Rob White, who is manager in the manufacturing department, can view the protected Excel file in the Workspace. Rob White is transferred to the production department. Thereafter, Rob White can no longer access the protected Excel file. John Smith, who is neither in the engineering nor manufacturing department, cannot access the protected Excel file. John Smith is transferred to the manufacturing department as a manager. John Smith can now view the protected Excel file. I log in to SkyDRM Admin Console as admin. Go to Domain Policies. I already created 2 policies. The first policy allows engineering users to have the view, edit, and print rights on confidential classification. The classification is confidential. The user department attribute is engineering. The user will get view, edit, and print rights. The second policy allows manufacturing users with the manager title to view the protected doc on confidential classification. The classification is confidential. The 2 user attributes are used in this policy. The department attribute is manufacturing. The job title attribute is manager. The user will get view rights. With the 2 policies, the user will access the protected doc based on the department and job title attributes dynamically. Bob Elliott has financial sample document in his local computer and wants to share it with others securely. I log into SkyDRM web client as Bob Elliott and go to Workspace. Bob Elliott protects the doc in Workspace. He selects Confidential Classification. Bob Elliott has view, edit, and print rights for this document. I log into SkyDRM web client as Rob White and go to the Workspace and check this file. As you can see, Rob White has the view rights on this document because Rob White is a manager in the manufacturing department. Rob White is transferred to the production department. The SkyDRM users are managed by Identity Provider. The users in this demo are managed by Azure AD. I log into Azure portal and view user Rob White. I change Rob White's attribute department from manufacturing to production and save it. I log into SkyDRM web client as Rob White and go to Workspace. Check the permission of this document. As you can see, Rob White does not have any rights on this document because he is not in the manufacturing department anymore. I log into SkyDRM web client as John Smith and go to Workspace. Check the permissions of this document. As you can see, John Smith does not have rights on this document because he is neither in the engineering nor manufacturing department with the job title of manager. I log into Azure portal and view user John Smith. I change John Smith's attribute department from IT to manufacturing. Change the attribute job title from security specialist to manager and save it. I log into SkyDRM web client as John Smith and go to Workspace. Check the permissions of this document. As you can see, John Smith has view rights on this document because he is in the manufacturing department and his job title is manager. So far, I demonstrate that rights on the protected doc are based on users' attributes dynamically. To grant or deny users' rights on a document, I don't need to change the policies and re-protect the document. I just need to change the user's attributes. With this, I conclude Use Case 2. In Use Case 3, the project admin can invite new members to the project. Bob Elliott has the project administrator's role. Bob Elliott creates a new project called New Product Development. Bob Elliott creates a company-defined policy in the project with confidential classification, allowing view, edit, and save as rights. Bob Elliott protects a PDF in the project with confidential classification. Bob Elliott invites Rob White to the project. Rob White accepts the invitation and joins the project. Rob White can view the PDF in the project. Bob Elliott changes the classification of the file to restricted. Rob White does not have any rights on the file. Bob Elliott removes Rob White from the project. Rob White cannot access the project. I log into SkyDRM with web client as Bob Elliott. I have already created a new project called New Product Development. I invite Rob White to the project as a member of the project. I also upload a file titled card.pdf into the project. The user has view, edit, and save as permissions on this protected document. Now I log into SkyDRM web client as Rob White. I go to the project New Product Development. I can see the file card.pdf. It has been shared by Bob Elliott. As Rob White, I have view, edit, and save as permissions on this protected document. Back as Bob Elliott in Web Client, I go to the project New Product Development. I will modify the classification of this document. I will set new classification as restricted and save. Once again, as Rob White in Web Client, I go to the project. Let's check the permissions. Rob White no longer has any permissions on this protected document since the change in classification to restricted. Now, as Bob Elliott, I go to the project, go to the members, and remove Rob White from this project. As Rob White in Web Client. Since Rob White has been removed from the project, he cannot see that project anymore. With this, I conclude use case 3.